So nice to
Hi,
be
Anthea.
with all of you here. What I have here, Margery Detring. Welcome, my dear Margie.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll just never today. Okay. So this is the first episode of my interview series, Building a Healing World Through Oneness. And you, Margie, you are here, the first one, because there are multiple reasons, and I'm going to leave the best for last. So Margie, I met you, I don't know, maybe 3 or I don't even know how many weeks ago, when our colleagues, teachers of the School of the Heart from Chile, Eda Suarez, and Hofan Chow from Hong Kong, created an event that we're going to participate again at on November 21st, which is a Sunday morning. And we connected very fast. You bring such beautiful energy, and I would love, I invite people to listen to you and feel how your words touch them. And I will share at the end or with another occasion how it touched me, because I felt with you something that honestly, I think only people who live in the heart like you do can show us. I've seen it with one of our teachers, and I'm sure you're going to talk about him, Daniel Mitel. So Margie, you are the best one to share your life story. I can read through the bio, but you already have the bio. I shared it on Facebook. What are the most important elements from your story that we need to know to show us your amazing journey with heart imagery? And what have you noticed about it in your life, how it impacted your life?
Well, as far as where I'm from, I come from a background that valued education, so I have a couple of university degrees. I've had 3 different careers. I've taught public school and college, and many years on reservation schools. My husband's a park ranger, so we've lived out on the land quite a bit. And this was something that I brought over from my childhood, because as an only child living on a farm, the animals and the land and the water and the rocks, that was where I spent my time. And there was my joy, especially with the dog and the cats. And I was lucky enough to get a horse when I was quite young that I rode bareback. So I felt these animals, we were like right there. After I finished college, the first round, I did go back later on for a master's in earth sciences when I was living on reservation. But I think my first incursion into meditation was with the practices called transcendental meditation. And that was back like 1970s, maybe even 69. And what I found there was that very quickly you could shift from feeling like you're breathing like to, and that was really the only technique I knew. I added on some yoga, and then we started living in these wonderful national parks. And I had the only 2 kids in Northern Glacier. The only 2 kids in our sub-district was 75,000 acres. And they were the only 2 kids there. And, the main challenge there was keeping your eyes, because there were bears and elk and, a lynx living under the porch. And it was wonderful. It made my heart it kept me just being happy, connected with the earth. When we moved to the Navajo reservation, I was lucky to be able to, there is a national park there, Canyon de Chelly, and I was teaching there, and I was lucky enough to teach Navajo, primarily Navajo students, also some Zuni and Hopi kids. And then later on, I taught in Zuni Pueblo, and we lived actually on El Morro National Monument in New Mexico. Actually, the houses were built on a slope that had eroded down from ruins. They were not on ruins, but the slope had ridden down, and there were, you could walk 50 feet and be very close to where these are. You could see the edges of the dwellings. And there were places there where there were petroglyphs in the rock solstice markers. There were places there where you could sit and just let yourself got it. But there were places where you could sit there on the corners of those ruin sites near the petroglyphs, and on more than one occasion, it just like, boom, it just like kind of like a tunnel, not like being in the ancient scene, but it was like a tunnel. It's like you're looking through, and there was this very old village, and people were just doing their thing. And the interesting thing was that most people down there didn't see me, but there was one person who did, who looked up the hill and saw me and came up. Oh. And that was one of the first I don't know, I don't like to call them waking dream, but like seeing things in a tunnel, like a tunnel where you can be in another time temporarily, or view another time.
It's almost like the near death, not like a near death experience, but it's not the same thing, because I've been there. It's something else, but yeah, it's like looking through a different into multidimensionality of the world, and actually seeing another dimension. It's something like that.
Yeah, like, as Drunvalo always said, that there are all these times, and many people say this, that all these times exist at the same time. It's just different timelines, and we have the ability to actually step from one timeline to another, just like we're stepping from one sidewalk onto another.
Can I interrupt you a bit?
Please.
Before you continue, there are two things that I just want to check with you. First of all, Drunvalo, we're talking about Drunvalo Melchizedek, yes. The one who wrote Flower of Life, and who started the School of Remembering, and the one who is, I think, your primary teacher in the School, yes, of the Heart. And then you mentioned the Hopi. I don't recognize all the other names of the indigenous people, but Hopi, tell me if I'm right, appears in one of Drunvalo's books. Is it?
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
can you tell us more a bit, so people know why, because you mentioned Hopi, and this is an important key element there that connects to your story. What is so important about the Hopi?
The Hopi have, in fact, all the Pueblo people, but the Hopi have a larger group, and they live closer together in the area in northeastern Arizona. They originally were on Hopi mesas. There are 4 mesas, and for defense, and then they farm down below. But the Hopi have a yearly cycle of, I think it's 12, but it may be 13, because there are 13 full moons in a year, as opposed. So
they follow the lunar calendar.
Yes, and there are a number of kivas, and they all have a primary activity, and there's a celebration cycle every year. It's about every 2 weeks during the dance cycle. About every 2 weeks, another kiva will take over with the prep, and everybody's seen the Kachina dancers, what they look like, that kind of thing. And but anyway, the reason that they do this is that all of these are representative of something that's to be known and understood, a quality of creator, if you will. And I hope I get this just right, because it's a rather deep topic. But the important part of it is that when young men are about 11, they are inducted into the kiva for their lifetime. And from then on, it's their responsibility to keep this particular cycle going. And they do it for all of us, because if they were to stop doing their ceremony, they believe that everything would just fall apart. They're keeping the world going for us, if you will. They're like feeding the cycle with their devotion and their ceremonies and their sharing. So, yeah.
Are the Hopi or somebody from the Hopi is the one you've seen through the tunnel? Now going back to your story, or is somebody from another?
Considering the location, these people were probably moved to Zuni Pueblo, which is the closest Pueblo to Hopi.
Okay.
But there are a lot of the Pueblos are Pueblo people are people who were they didn't move so much, like the Plains people moved a great deal because of the animals and so forth. But the Pueblo people made adobe structures, and some of them are, if you go to Zuni or Acoma, you're going to be able to see, kind of look down, and you'll see that these are layer after layer after layer. They just keep, as things fill, they just keep going up. So that they're not tall, but it's, they may be maybe 4 or 5 stories, but not, not like really tall. But they, as things crumble, they just keep building them up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's a very cohesive society. And they're just, I had, one year I had Zuni 6th graders. And that was just the year that the boys were going into the kivas. And so they would be doing their thing. They have to be up with the elders. They're being taught, they're learning the stories. And that's actually what those of you who might have a Kachina doll, that's actually what those were for, was to have a physical thing to show the kids, this is who we're talking about. This is the story of this. So that when they went to the celebrations, they would know what it meant, what it was represented.
And it connected them to their past, to their ancestors, right?
Exactly.
Because when you said it, I felt the connection going way back, like
way back.
You feel the line, you feel the lineage, you feel the connection. It becomes part of your being. I interrupted you, so please forgive me. Can you tell us, continue your story with the tunnel? So the fact that it was like looking into another dimension, and
Sure.
why that impressed you? What was the impact on you, and why?
Well, the impact on me was, well, first that I could see this, and I could see the ruin area down there, and then all of a sudden it was like, it was new, and there were all these folks that were dressed like people do for Pueblo ceremonies, but the one person, so you could think, oh well, this is just like a waking dream, right? But when someone goes and starts walking up to you, it's like, that all these timelines are simultaneous, because I was still exactly where I was. I don't know how long I was kind of in this in between, but I don't know. But those.
So it was another dimension.
It was.
It's not like anybody can go exactly in the spot you were and turn around where the tunnel was and go through the tunnel and go in that dimension, and not in that
No.
dimension, and go in a real place. Like, it's not something we can
Right.
find on map and say, oh, I can show you on a satellite map that's where that guy was. No,
Like,
it's
yeah,
something in between dimensions
in
that happen.
between. Yeah, but that area is maintained by the Zuni. By the Zuni priests, because there was one time I was in our house and a pickup truck pulled up right in front of my front yard, and these men stood up and they were dressed as uh, dancers. These 6 guys got up, they got out of the back of the truck, and them and the people in the truck kind of in lockstep, kind of not running, but kind of where you're taking shorter steps, more of a ceremony. Anyway, they went to this ruin where I had been sitting. And when I went up there, and then they did their thing, and they came back and got in the truck and just left. No, didn't say anything to me at all. I mean, it was in front of my house. But then I went up and there were clipped, either, I don't know if they were raven or crow, but they were clipped feathers at the corners of that ruin. So so it's maintained. And this is the thing, this is with the Pueblos, but with the Hopi, they're maintaining it for us. They're holding that old relationship and they're holding it together. The Drunvalo said one time that when some of the Tibetan monks came and were visiting him, and or maybe he was where they were, I'm not sure actually, but he was talking with Tibetan monks, and they said that the Hopi are their brothers. I mean, and not just like, you're my sister,
Yeah.
but that they actually had been.
Do the same thing.
They're the same thing. And then at one time they were together, and then they moved. They migrated to different parts. Yeah. Well, the time I mentioned to you that I was lucky enough to spend some time in the mountains of Colombia and the Sierra Madres, and with the Arhuacos and the Koji and the Wiwas, and one of the connection here between them and the Hopis is that they also are dedicated to keeping things, the term they use is origin, origin. They want to keep things as origin, because anything else is, well, we see people, we can all agree on the basic stuff, right? The really, really, really basic. We're going to love our families. We're going to eat. We're going to find shelter. We're going to all do that stuff.
Yeah.
But then we get into big arguments about the details.
Yeah.
But these folks, I was lucky enough to stay and sleep and eat with the families had their house, but with we guests got to borrow housing for the school kids, and there were houses and hammocks, and then we would go in the day and actually early in the morning, and they would talk to us. They talked to us a little early because they had the belief that any prayer that you make before the sun comes up is more important than anything you do the rest of the day.
So that's why we have the at powwows, or I don't know if it's also at other events, but I've seen the indigenous people here in Canada doing prayers at sunrise or before sunrise. They have a special ceremony. So now I see the meaning. Thank you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I did powwows for years, and that was one of the most wonderful things about doing powwows and having my store, having Ancient Way Trader set up there, was that people were invited in, and that was wonderful. But when everybody went home, then all of us that were camped there, the drums, the big drums, and the singing, they would sing until midnight, 1 o'clock.
Wow.
After they'd already been there all day. But of course it cooled off at night, but that was part of it. And also, what else are you going to do? It's kind of like sitting around a campfire. What else are you going to do when you're hanging out in the summertime, right? But that it's like a heart massage.
When you're listening to the drum.
Yeah. Yeah. I took the first powwow we
Is the
took.
beat steady? Is the beat steady every single time?
No. There's what they call Southern style and Northern style. Southern style is more of a Northern style is, and you really get hopping on Northern style.
Bitter, yeah.
It's the same rhythm. It's just faster. Northern style, like you might find if you went to a powwow with Cree people, it's much faster, and the singing is higher pitched. What else did I want to tell you? Oh, I first started studying with Drunvalo, or started, I shouldn't say, well, I think just listening to him, I consider that studying. My first time listening to Drunvalo talk for a weekend was like 1999.
Wow.
And that was way back when there was just the flower of life. And so that's what everybody was learning, was a flower of life. And
the sacred geometry, for people who are watching this live on replay, Drunvalo Melchizedek was teaching sacred geometry through the flower of life workshops. Workshops, sorry. Mm-hmm.
And now in Awakening the Illuminated Heart, we teach his original way of going into the heart.
Oh, okay.
But what he found in the 90s and the 80s, what he found was that in the workshops that he would have, they would be almost all women. So what he was doing was teaching, what the way we talk now is, we call it the feminine way. It's more intuitive. It's more easy. You just go. And this is the way his wife helps people, Claudette Melchizedek, also this way. But what he found was that there were very few men that were coming. So he said, he knew, because of his teachers, that he needed to get the information of how to go into the heart and how to activate your Merkabah.
Which is, we could say, the body of light. Can we say
the body of light? Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. We first got the kind of the Leonardo sphere here, which is our torus, with the energy that's going through our body, coming in and out and going every direction, but coming from in and from out and going in through the middle here. And then the Merkabah is kind of spaceship shaped, strangely enough, and about 55 feet across, not miles, 55 feet. Although there are bigger Merkabahs that are bigger than that. I mean, Earth has a Merkabah. What was I going to say to you?
Drunvalo and Flower of Life, and how he started teaching, and what he noticed about men and women. Yes,
he noticed that to reach more men, he felt that both genders needed to have this information. So he made it a more logical sequence, so that the men would also feel comfortable learning it. And women could learn it as well. But when we did it that way, we needed to actually we needed to do our activation, or kind of support it every day. And it wasn't active, it wasn't truly in place and permanent for 2 years. But this
You talk about the Merkabah.
The Merkabah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then later on, of course, he moved to Prescott and Sedona, and then most of I think his greatest number of people that he reached was through the Creative Living Center in Sedona. And then he went from that, he started getting more insight, more learning from his guides.
Mm-hmm.
And so he started kind of slowly making it more intuitive. So we had we had Flower of Life, and we had Earth Sky 1 and 2. I forget what they called the second one. I think they just called it the advanced class. then Awakening the Illuminated Heart for several years, and then Cosmic Grace. And I met Daniel. Oh, one thing I want to say about Drunvalo is that if you had a chance to see, if those of you who know him, this is the only person I think I have ever met in my life that is totally present all the time. When you speak with him, he totally hears what you are saying. There is no ego that gets in there. If you ask him a question, it is totally yours. It has nothing to do with any of his background, anything that, the human beings have.
Okay, now, because I know how this feels like as a person who is a practitioner and also a teacher of heart imagery, so for people who are here, we always say the best moment is now, be present, be present, be present. But when we're talking about people like Drunvalo, and when you're talking about Drunvalo, when you say he's present and what he's saying is your answer, or it's your words. What I understand as I'm doing this in my work with people is you come as a blank slate in a conversation, and who's listening is not you, is your heart. And your heart is listening to the heart, and we can say the higher self, higher consciousness, super conscious, or inner wisdom, or whatever we want to call it, from the other person's heart or being, is it? So it's whether you see the images or you hear the sound or whatever it is for each person, when Drunvalo is present like that, he actually becomes could we say just maybe like the drum, or like the sounding board is just sort of I want to say reflection. Maybe that's true, because he's not him. You said he doesn't have the ego, so he's just listening and turning back what you can hear or what you need to hear from your guidance. Could that be
if he's still fully him, but he's able to completely let the details of himself, leave them out of the way, so that I think my best way of describing it would be that he is a pure mirror, a pure reflection for us. So I say, this is what's happening. I'm not sure what to do. And so he listens, and without any of his preconceived ideas, said, well, you could do this or this. And there's no judgment with what he says. But he's just, he like, when he's speaking to us, I mean, he may tell us a story that has him in it. But he's not talking about, I don't know, I'm my words are not coming, but there's no ego. Yeah, it is hard to explain.
It is hard to explain because one, we are not used to that. People are we are judgmental with each other. People are judgmental in general.
Oh, and of ourselves.
Exactly. And so it's difficult. We are standing in our own way, first of all, and then we are standing in the way of hearing the other person. So we're just leaving at that. He is for now, because we're going to talk about it in the upcoming events and whatever we're going to do together. So he is, you said a pure mirror or a pure mirror?
I think I said he was I did use the word mirror, but he's
mirror. He's a mirror.
Yeah. I had a friend who used the phrase about somebody else that we knew, but she said a mirror and a magnifier. And I thought, oh, that's exactly.
Because the voice of the inner wisdom, everybody, I mean, who is listening to themselves, the voice of the inner wisdom is not shouting like the ego. Is very soft and whispering at the beginning, and becomes louder only because you want to listen to it, not because it is louder. It's louder because you are, like you say, magnifying what you hear. So I get the meaning of what you say. But coming back to how you got to heart imagery, you learned from Drunvalo. So did you take all the courses he had? Because you have 11 years of experience, right?
I have well, there's even more years, but I had 11 different classes with him. I did take, the only thing that I missed were a couple of trips that I actually didn't know about. That there were a couple of trips that he took off-site. They weren't really classes, but you know, when you go with Drunvalo, I mean,
You're learning.
it is, yeah, it's a class. But funny thing though, that one of those things, one of those events, I went with someone else with a different group because I wanted to do ceremony at Equinox, at Chichen Itza, and some of the other sites in the Yucatan. And when I got there, Drunvalo was there doing ceremony. And so I wanted to just follow Drunvalo, of course. But
I would do
yeah,
that too.
yeah. But anyway, we had that blessed thing, and then several ceremonies at different ruin sites in the Yucatan. And while we were there that day, a priest came from Peru, an Incan priest, young man. I think he said he was 40. Which for me, you know, being 72, it's like 40. Yeah, you're a young guy. But anyway, he was dressed very traditionally with lots of strongly woven cloth, you know, black and red, very bold patterns, and feathers, large feathers, very, very imposing. And he was looking for people who said, now tomorrow there must be a ceremony at Mayapan, which is one of the lesser known pyramids. He said, and I have been, my priesthood has been preparing for this. It only happens once every 500 years.
Wow.
Yeah. He said, so my priesthood, that's all we've been doing, is passing it on, again, holding on to the ceremony, keeping it going, holding on to origin, bringing origin up to the present. He said, I think it was 8 people. I need 8 people for couples. I need 8 people to go to Mayapan to do this ceremony on the top of this pyramid. We have to start very early. So I'm at my place, at my hotel, and we're supposed to meet at I think it was called Hacienda de San Antonio. And I told this person that, you know, I needed a cab. I said, so I went and talked to this people, you know, like, I need to go to the cabbies. I need to go to San Antonio, Hacienda de San Antonio. And so I got somebody who thought he knew where he was going,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a lot of countryside going out of Mira. I can't think of the name of the town. Not Miradel. Anyway, there was a lot of going around. So I got to see some countryside, which was cool. But I ended up getting to the hacienda too late to go on the bus. I find out later there were enough people that went. He had the 8, and he was very grateful. I saw him later. He was dressed like a regular South American person. And he said, you know, we did the ceremony. It's good. And I am now released. He said, that's what my priesthood has been doing for the last 500 years, is bringing this ceremony. He says, now it's been done. So all of the priests are released. He said, now, he said, and all these folks all this time had to be celibate. They couldn't, and they also couldn't, well, I guess being celibate means you don't have a family, but I mean, also not
Intimate.
Not intimate, not have a wife, whether they're intimate or not. But anyway, he said, we can now, he says, I can get married and have a family.
Oh.
But they had 500 years of preparing, and he was fully like, he was like, we need to do this, but he had released it. You know, it's like, these people, this is either going to happen or it's not. And if it doesn't happen, then I will be a priest until the day I die. We'll be preparing again for another 500 years. But
Wow.
it happened. But because I missed the bus, I ended up at Hacienda de San Antonio, and there was a meeting of North and South American Native American elders. Okay, I'm not a tribal member. I found out maybe 40 years ago that I had Native blood. Okay, but I'm
Wow.
not a tribal member.
Mm-hmm.
But I missed the bus, and the taxi left. And so here I was with all these people from all over, and there were Lakota people, there were people there was a sound healer from Ecuador, there were people from Venezuela, Colombia, the United States, New York, because there were still a lot of Northeastern tribes, and and Western tribes. These people were there. There were people who had partly walked and taken buses from Guatemala and Honduras, a large number of Mayan people. And see, I'd always been taught that the Mayan culture and language,
don't exist, right?
Well, we had I ended up in this meeting, and they were translating from Spanish to Maya, Maya to Spanish, and then somebody was doing English. And there was somebody who had a small group, I think, for like one day that maybe they did a little French, and I don't know who that was from. Maybe they were from the Guianas, I'm not sure. But anyway, so that very same day, there was going to be a celebration. I said, I shouldn't be here. And they go, well, are you? And I said, yeah. And they go, are you over 50? And I said, yeah. And said, well, then you're supposed to be here. And this was something that, that we think, oh, well, it's not the plan, right? This wasn't my plan. And then someone told me, well, did you try to go on the bus? Yes. Did you end up here? Yes. He said, oh, well, then obviously you're supposed to be here, because my tour was going somewhere else. And I got in the cab. The cabbie didn't know how to get there. I missed the bus. I found this group of people who were speaking different languages, and it was so beautiful. And the wonderful, beautiful Mayan woman who had the incense, and she was swinging the incense, constantly going around the circle, swinging the incense. They used copal in the incense burner. A resin.
You missed one event that you wanted to go to, and that event went perfectly fine. People were released, things were done. The fact that happened only once every 500 years, and you actually were present where you were supposed to be, and that's where I remember. That's why this interview with you is called "Your Heart Knows Your Path."
Yes, yes. We are. If we just let life, well, I don't mean be lazy, but if you look at what your options are and pick the best option, and actually believe the answer that your heart gives you, it turns out okay. So that was the night I ended up on the bus with everybody, with all the people from the conference. And we were on a bus going to a cultural center, a Mayan center, where they were going to tell stories and dance, and we were going to have traditional food. And that's the one where I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, it's a school bus, right? So
yeah.
Well, no, it had higher seats than that, I think. I can't remember. Anyway, and I just kind of went, and I was gone. I was just straight out gone.
So there was an accident, and you hit your head. You had a
Nope.
No.
I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I went somewhere else, and I just kind of fell forward, and I saw things.
So hold on, because I'm stopping you, and please forgive me, everyone watching this, because this is the second time I hear the story, so I misunderstood the first time, and I want to make sure there was no accident. It happened all of a sudden that you lost consciousness.
And I just felt, because of the way the seats were, when I fell forward, I just kind of did that.
Wow.
And I had my journey, and I don't know how long I don't know. But I was conscious of this drum in the background.
You would hear all the time a drum in the background.
Near the end. I don't know if it was there at the beginning or not. And finally, I just, I saw the end of what I was seeing, and I sat up, and there was trying to think of the name, his name, Willabliza. Willabliza was sitting next to me, who was a Lakota medicine person. Ahead of him was a sound healer from Ecuador.
Wow.
And he had handed his drum back to Willabliza. And when I was like upright again, I looked, I think I said, thank you. But he said, the reason I did that was that sometimes when people go like that, when they go on a journey, sometimes they just keep going. They don't necessarily come back. So the drum was so to bring you back here.
If you need to
come back to where I was. Yeah. And he just without further ado, just handed the drum back to the man from Ecuador. And then we went on to the.
Do you think they knew you have to come back, and that's why they did the drumming, or they do the drumming no matter what, just to guide the person if the person needs to come back? What do you know?
I don't know. My gut feeling was it was to remind you that there is a path back.
Oh, okay.
And you get
like the Ariana's thread and the maze. By the way, your logo is a maze.
Yeah.
Your logo has a maze, and there's a man in there. Maybe you tell us a bit about that, because this connects to your story. And the drumming.
This is it. When we were living on the Navajo reservation, I've always loved things that were handmade, and which is one of the reasons I made a store for selling authentic native things for so long when we lived in Key Largo. But this is the backside. It's some people call these basket weavers. They live near Phoenix, Arizona. Mm-hmm. And some people call them Papago, but that's not what they call themselves. They call themselves Tohono O'odham. And this is a Tohono O'odham made with yucca. And this is something that you see on petroglyphs sometimes. And he's called the man in the maze. And for man, let's just say human. So the human in the maze. Mm-hmm. And the idea is this. It's kind of like my bus ride, my cabin bus ride.
Yeah.
Is that, we come in, we're all from the one source, right? So here's the center, here's the one source. We come and we think, oh, well, we'll go out and we'll have some fun and we'll, whatever, we'll eat peaches and we'll fall in love and we'll do this and we'll do that. And then we can go back to the one source whenever we want to. But the thing is, the universe remembers our path that we're supposed to take. So the universe keeps shifting the maze until we walk all the parts that we're supposed to walk.
Wow, I have goosebumps. This is the first time I hear it.
And this is why I wanted it for my logo. It's anyway.
The universe is shifting the maze.
The universe shifts. It's a path. Yeah, think of the maze as a path.
So the universe is guiding you. No matter your choices, the universe is guiding you so that you still get to where you're supposed to be on your journey.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not, we're all going to eventually end up, if there isn't all that is, which of course I think that, I mean, how can there not be an all that is? I mean, if there is all that is, then we're all connected. So we're all eventually going to go back and be part of all that is in a different way than we are right now. But that's the one point. But to me, this is where we go when we go into the tiny space of our heart. We're part of all that is, and it's connected.
Awakening the Illuminated Heart workshop?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I have to think about that some more. That's the first time I've ever said that, so don't hold me to that.
No, the tiny spaces in yeah.
But I mean, the tiny space is in the sacred space. But
yes.
If this is the one point would be in the tiny space.
Because that's where you meet source, the all that is.
That's where you meet source. That's where everything is, because we all have a sacred space, but we only have all that is only has one tiny space, and we share it. That's why when we're there, we can find all those perfect answers. We can go and we can invite Confucius to come talk to us, our grandparents.
And so
Jesus.
ancestors, guides.
Yeah, because we're all there. Yeah.
So Margie,
I love baskets.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Normally this would be a 30-minute interview, but I couldn't stop you, especially because I wanted to hear that story with the drumming that people needed to hear. And I'm grateful that you connected it with your logo and the maze. Can you give us just, so I hope we can make it short. Why heart imagery, Margie? Why do we need heart imagery? What does that bring to our lives, our relationships, our community, our development?
We need it because we've all been so well trained by so many well-meaning people in ways to make our life successful in the society, whatever society we're in. I mean, and so the rules are different all over the place, so that we don't get hurt, because we all have hurts. Like my parents and my grandparents they didn't talk about them, but because those folks didn't, but they had places where they were hurt. So they, of course, tried to look at the road ahead and say, oh, she might get hurt there. So they give me a little bit of a tweak, kind of like you're adjusting, I don't know.
So that's a protection system. That's a protection system.
And that's one of the reasons that we need to find a way to filter out all those things that are not us. As well-intentioned and full of love as they were when they were given to us. Maybe they were given to our parents, who were given by their parents, by their parents.
So acknowledge
some
that,
of these things.
Like see that, acknowledge what they were, accept it, and allow it to maybe disperse is not the right word, but allow it to take another place in our life and find what's beyond that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Detach from that, because that's not really, although we've used those things, we don't need them now. And so the quest is to find those things and just let them fall off, kind of like, petals on a flower. What we're looking for is the seed, because we're the seed, but we let the petals and the other stuff go off that were all around us and seem to be part of us, seem to be totally part of us. And they were. So we do our imagery exercises to clear out the clutter, if you will, so we can see it as clutter. And
but without a fight, just so people understand, this is a very smooth, loving, caring, compassionate process, and it comes from neutrality. Can you say just a little bit of what heart imagery is? Like, can you give us a glimpse of that? And
heart imagery is, the process of it. We start off with just really breathing and calming down. Because as soon as, if you look at your breath, very often you'll notice if something happens, you feel a tightness
Yeah,
somewhere.
shortness. There's tightness
Yeah.
and it's short.
It's short, and your breathing gets, you may even
Shallow.
go over, but and so first thing we're going to do is we're going to open it up and let the breath and the prana, and invite the prana in to clear things out so that we can strengthen our, kind of like exercise in a way, strengthen our core so that we believe what we can find. We believe the things that we hear and see and sense and feel in our hearts. So I think it's decluttering, but you have to say thank you. You need to see it before you can. Well, I don't know if this is true. For me, it's true.
Okay.
That I need to see it so that I can say, thank you. You've helped me in the past. You protected me, whatever. You protected me when I was 13. And I needed that to get through where I was at that time.
So you're bringing consciousness. You're bringing awareness.
Yeah. And there's so many wonderful techniques to use to just kind of bring yourself back to where you are.
Back to origin, back to source.
Back to origin. Yeah, back to origin. Absolutely.
One example of how heart imagery impacted you, like one example that really you can always remember about what helped you with heart imagery in the beginning or after, whatever stands out for you.
Oh gosh, I've been doing this a while, so that's a.
What surprised you the most? What was one moment where we'll be like, wow, we can do that with heart imagery? Or I know it happens every time because I'm a practitioner and I know it happens every time. Every time is different. For those watching, heart imagery is unique every single time you do an exercise. There's always something unique. There's no repeating. Could be the same teacher, could be the same exercise, but because it's in a different moment of your life, it's like you're tapping into a different dimension, it's absolutely unique and it's just yours. Whatever you get in is just yours. So can you give us something, an example? If not you, do you know anybody, an example where you witnessed somebody else going through something and that really was?
The hard part is that there's so many and I try to make it a point to when I see it and I let it go, I forget about it. You know?
I know how it's like in a way because when I'm working with clients, it's an experience. I live it in the moment and I'm not stuck with it. It's like what we're learning in heart imagery is not to cling on to events in the future or the past. You're living in the present. And when you're living in the present, you don't actually have them, all the details and all that.
Right. Yeah. So I think that one of the main things for me, just realization was that finally looking in my own heart and the things that I've done, I've always been very critical of myself.
Me
and
too.
my wonderful parents thought that once you knew something and you knew how to do something perfectly, that you were expected to always do that. So sometimes I'm not very good with words and I say things and I go like, oh, that's not what I meant. But things I have very high expectations. So anyway, through several classes and healing and letting things go and letting blue light kind of keep going through my body to push everything out physically and to do other stuff. Basically, I finally decided that I am actually okay. I am actually, I can say that. There was a book in the 70s, I think, I'm okay, you're okay. Well, that's true and easy to say intellectually.
Yeah.
But I actually am okay in that at this moment in time, I'm doing the very best I can with what I have. And I'm given a lot of opportunities to hug people and to love people. And I am grateful for that. And so I think that was, but I can't say which particular class did it. Well, Awakening the Illuminated Heart. Well, actually, okay, we'll go back. I'll be really quick though, 2 minutes. Okay, conscious, you sense that who and what you are when you're activating your Merkabah back in the old way with the ancient flower of life. Okay. With Father Sky, Mother Earth, that was something that really resonated with me because I am an earth person.
Yeah.
I am connected to the earth. For my meditations, I've got a stone bench and I lean against a tree, and trees, I ask trees stuff. And they say really wise, non-judgmental things, actually. But with that, I found out that I actually was connected. I wasn't loose. I wasn't like alone. I was totally connected. Then with Awakening, I found out that I didn't know that there was, we always talk about our heart, but I didn't know there was a tiny space where I could just go and be. I mean, talk about your vacations. I mean, really, it's just, and you can stay there. And sometimes I would get visitors, with some people that Drunvalo brought in, some of the plasma beings. There was a couple of those that just like stayed in there for a couple months. It's like, hi, but that again, that was not me. That was Drunvalo doing, leading us into his deep meditation. So, but with these, I think we learn with heart imagery that we really are connected, and we actually are all connected. It's just, we just have to basically settle down and breathe and let it come to us and stop letting other people tell us who and what we are, because they do their best. Most of them are well-intentioned.
Yeah.
Maybe not one of my aunts, but anyway, she probably is too.
Well, some people
Anyway,
too. Yeah. But
yeah,
it's the idea that through the heart, through heart imagery, and through the peace that it comes with it, you bring peace to your mind, and not you just bring it, you keep it. And that is something you and I are going to talk about in a free workshop we're planning together. So dear friends, and whoever's watching this live or the recording, Margie and I gathered our wisdom, life experience, and teaching together. And since yesterday, we started a collaboration, and we are going to teach heart imagery workshops. And because this month in United States, we have Thanksgiving by somewhere at the end of the month. And before that, this week on 11th, we have the Remembrance Day in Canada. We made this month the Gratitude Month, and Margie and I are going to teach once a week this week and next week an introductory workshop about heart imagery as a gift, and we call it the same name as this episode, which is Your Heart Knows Your Path. And I know today we talked about, I let Margie go beyond the time we set up. It's okay. Maybe I'm going to split this in two, have episode 1 part 1, episode 1 part 2, we'll see. But I wanted you to really see her story because she has so much to give. She has much more experience than I have. And I'm joining forces so I can also learn. And this Friday, we're going to start at 7 p.m. EST for 1 hour and a half, an introduction course. I'm still working on the tech part, so if you're interested, please comment here or leave me a message somewhere or write me at hello@andreapetru.ca. I'm going to have all the email and other information in the comments, and I also have once I fix the technical issue, I'm going to put the link to register to this gift, the free webinar, and this is not going to be recorded. And for those coming, we're going to have a gift, a special gift for you for being live and for committing to yourself. The next thing that is going to happen is, well, actually, the big thing is Margie and I are going to teach this year and throughout next year until summer at least. So you're going to see us more often. You're going to hear about us. And I'm going to keep you posted. Bear with me. I'm setting up a lot of stuff in my business and everything. Margie, did I forget anything?
No.
No, okay.
Nope.
One thing that you have as a message to the world, to everybody watching you now, what comes to you as a message regarding healing the world through oneness?
Everybody has a part to play. And our challenge is to walk our path and believe that we're supposed to do what our heart tells us to do, because it's important. It may not be obvious right in front of us. And we must believe in ourselves that our part is important. And sometimes we need to keep that path to ourselves, because if we bring up something that's completely new into our family reunion, there's going to be one or two that are going to say, you can't do that, but we can. We really can. We have a part to play, and we must believe in ourselves to know that it's important that we do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It matters so much to me to have you here. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for having patience with us with this live. And we hope to see you in our live events this month. And we hope that you're going to share with everybody. We're giving 2 possibilities. So this week we're going to have Friday in the evening, one event, and the same event is going to be on Thursday next week around midday. So everybody can come. Those who can come in the evening, choose this week. Those who can come midday, choose next week. Or you can actually come to both events. That's up to you. It's your choice. We wish you that you really find who you are, be yourself, follow your path, and listen to your hearts deeply within. And we promise we're going to bring more details and information and blog posts, videos, and posts here on Facebook about heart imagery and what we do. Check out Margery Detring's website at livingintheheart.net. And events coming up, I'll have at andreapetru.ca/events. I'll put all the links in Facebook and the description on YouTube. So be with us, because that's how you are going to be with you. Thank you so much, Margie.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, everyone.